Hi everyone, welcome. It's Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. Back with you with another card reading today at long last. It's going to be, the overall theme is going to be called After the Party, just based on the setting and a few other things. And otherwise, there are going to be three groups today. Here's a little preview. So the selections today, these are just some of the card decks used in the background. Group 1 is going to be Rose Musk. Group 2 is going to be Good Fortune, and Group 3 is going to be Gold Silver. So make your selections based on that. So Rose Musk, Good Fortune, or Gold Silver. And the way I like to work the cards usually is, yes, there are going to be three decks per se that you can choose from, or choose one or more, one, two, or three, or all three of them. And what I like to do typically is when I get into this is I'm going to jump across groups sometimes as well. So you can either, I invite you to either stick around just for your particular group. There will be a predominant theme as I go through each one, or, stick around for all of it and just see where some might cross-reference. There might be messages across the whole board literally for you. And if not, that's fine, however you like to tune in and listen. So let's get into it. So for group 1, we're going to start off, that's the Rose Musk grouping. And what we have is number 5, Offer Up Gratitude. And actually, I'm going to show you all the cards at once. We're going to just, take a little tour around, and then I'll get into the specifics of the overall reading. Then we have Preseli Bluestone, Pilgrimage, Sacred Sites, Grid Work, Dragon Energy. Okay, that's that card. And then we have this card, which is really beautiful too, 14, Detachment, Sacred Lotus. And then we get into this one, number 26, Alusa, Star of Venus. So all really beautiful cards, each in their own right. So we'll start off this lead-off card. This one, I'll put the names of the decks in the description box below. With Offer Up Gratitude, this is going to be the overall driving theme of your particular group. What we see here is the lotus, and the hands put up in prayer. They're kind of holding that lotus upright as if it has a stem, and very stylized, ornate stem there. And what's interesting is I'm going to kind of actually skip all around, so bear with me. This does tie into, quite coincidentally, in quotes, right? There are no coincidences in my world. There is the lotus, the sacred lotus here. So first, before I get into anything, I just want to say that with the lotus, there are so many different varieties, so many different kinds with different special properties. There's, for instance, a blue lotus. A lot of people are into drinking blue lotus tea for healing properties. I invite you to go check out what those are. But what I want to do is I'm going to hop back and forth all over this deck, this spread for group 1. What I want to bring your attention to is what we're going to be getting into is talking about the point. So you see the point on the petals, or this overall pod before it blooms comes to a point. There's a point in the background of this mountain, whether it's artificially created or naturally formed. The point on the temple, right? So what I want to bring your attention to is when the lotus is open, spread open, is it that the center is like the sun and things are spreading out, the energies, generating outward? Or is the point helping to focus and bring energies in? Or why are we deciding an A or B? Is it both, and the reciprocity and the functioning of it all, where it spreads out and draws in? We know that the center attracts, certain insects to come in and pollinate. We also know that edges and points can keep things out, but we also know they can channel energies in. So that's just something to think about. Another nice thing about this is usually it sits on a rounded leaf, which is like the symbolism of the circle, tying everything together, the circle of life. The ring that is, never ending, the eternity, the eternal ring, and also the sum of all there is, and also the center of the void of nothing, or everything, depending how you want to look at it, or all of it, the all and the nothing. That just reminds me too of this darker circle, right? We got a void, and we got maybe something void, not of life, but just void of anything, the no thing, right? And then we have the green thriving, the pink and green of the heart center, which are the everything. And pink and green with the chakra colors are in the heart area. And so we've got that with the lotus with the pad behind it. And then this yellow In the middle could be like the light, the God spark within all of us. So there's a lot of the beautiful things going on with this imagery. The serene water in the background is the calm. So like at the center, we are like the eye of the storm with no matter what's going around, whether it's turbulent or not. There's just a lot of beautiful imagery just kind of free flowing into my mind here. Bear with me if the thoughts seem a little all over the place. That's just kind of how I flow at times. There'll be times when we're more focused and more flowing, and it's all good. All right, so we're going to go back up to this top card with the lotus. And again, some of those same principles are echoed here where we have two circles. I'm just seeing that now, where in this case, it's not the void or the dark purple, but it's like all the cosmos, the galaxy. So part of it's contained and framed, right? But then outside of it is the infinite and the expansive that cannot be contained and never will be because it's ever expanding. Now, I want to bring the attention to the hands in the form of making prayer. Well, what do? Put your own two hands together and make that prayer form. You're creating a connection to the heavens. You're creating a point, which goes back to what I was talking about, where the point of the petal is it bringing in and focusing energy down. We're going to get to this card later, but here with the star of Venus, the human form in a field is that point. So if lightning came down, they say it strikes the highest object, correct? So if we're standing there, we become that channel or that lightning rod to bring that energy down into the earth, right? And then we also are a bridge, that ties that down into the earth. And then also with reciprocity, once again, pushes it back up into the cosmos. And we create this, we're like a superconductor, bringing that energy down and then back up. And so and actually it looks like she's standing in, or this figure is standing in like a crystal geode, like a amethyst or something. It's really beautiful. A lot of messages coming here. But anyway, this form also, if we could look at it abstractly, is like the hands coming up. If like I asked you to do, like, put your hands together in prayer, that's kind of what we get, this form, right? With this energy flowing all around it. So back up to forming, a point with your hands in prayer. That's like we have this crystal. I brought this in to tie into this card. It just reminded me of this next card that we're going to go to with the Preseli Bluestone. Because it just had to, character and feel to this card to me. This is Kyanite. I think this is ruby and Kyanite, with this generator or point, they call it. So once again, I'm just bringing up the fact of the point. So even with the crystals, it's known that, like obelisks and other things, I'm going to stand this upright. We have the point, and that brings in the energies, and they flow up and down. Well, that's what we do. Just by virtue of us being us, standing in a field, for example, with the lightning coming down, or just coming into a room, we are that force that is bringing in the divine light into us, and then we spread it out into the room around us, whether it's an actual room or outside, doesn't matter. So anyway, this is just really coming to me, driving the point home here. It's just driving the point home, literally, pun intended, right? It's just really overwhelming coming to me. That's why I just keep emphasizing it. All right, but we're going to move on now. So there's a little other message too, because you selected group 1 based on the incense sense, and we have rose musk. And again, can't help but, be drawn to, we've got that flower in the opening of it. And again, is it, in this case, there aren't points. I'm trying to get my little pointer here is a straw. The overall, if I didn't say it, the overall theme here is after the party, and then we'll get into that later. But here we go. And I'm not trying to advertise anybody, so don't look at this. This is just where the incense happened to come from. But anyway, even though there aren't points on that rose petal down there, it's also, said that can be a convention to focus on the center of a flower for meditation, just like the lotus as well. But once again, it's like the burgeoning out of energies, but there's a center, there's a source on that rose. And that is, if you look at that source as our heart space and the God spark and the light shining out from it, again, we're beaming stuff out. But just by virtue of us being that source, we can also draw it in and then re-radiate it and spread it out like that little sun at the top, right? All right, so we're going to move down into a little more specifics. So we have this very intriguing card. We have, the Preseli Bluestone. Sacred sites what does it say? Hang on. Sacred sites, grid work, dragon energy. So, and that's, earth sign down here. So pilgrimage. So what's interesting is that, yes, people make a pilgrimage to different sites. I have actually done that. I went to, did have it in my mind that I wanted to go to Stonehenge. So I have been there a couple of times in my life in the Salisbury Plain out in, I guess, Wiltshire in England. And I wanted to see these standing stones. So what's interesting is we have what's called standing stones, and then we've got depicted here, there is not a forest like this at the actual site for Stonehenge, but we have, also the trees that are standing. They're also forming that, vertical bridge, that connection between the heavens and the ground, just as these standing stones are doing the same. Now with Stonehenge, there's an outer ring and an inner ring, two different types of stones. The outer ring are called the larger standing stones, or the sarsen stones. And actually sarsen, apparently the etymology, if you look that up, came from a word that was used back in, old ancient times for Muslims, or that's supposedly what it's attributed to. So it's interesting because at that time, I guess that would be considered as like outsiders, or they represented things that were Christianity, although that's also gets into some interesting things. Other concepts, which I don't have the time that I would need to really dive into all of that. So there's no judgment on one preference, let's just say, or the other, a religion or non-religion, or spirituality versus religions. I don't really care. I don't care about any of it, because what are we? We are just this light source within. We are the center of that lotus. We are the God spark. We are light, which has no form. That's why it's neither male nor female when you say the image of God. It just is, and it's light. And it's not a religion. It's not spirituality. It's not male. It's not female. It's all that is. Okay. Anyway, we'll keep going. So the outer ring is sarsen stone, which has a lot of quartz content. And what does quartz do? Well, I've said it before in other shows, quartz movement in a clock or watch. Take a look at that, won't you? See why there's an actual piece of quartz in those types of watches and clocks, and what they do and how they regulate frequencies and direct them. Very fascinating stuff. So it's no surprise that these have quartz content in them. Now, the bluestone on the inner ring also is a mixture of feldspar, I believe quartz. There's a few other types, silica. There's a lot of other things. And then we tie into what those uses are in the galactic world. So there's been a lot of speculation about what a sacred site like Stonehenge is. What did the stones do? Some say, oh, it's a moon clock or a sun clock. Well, it probably was a lot more than that. And you just need to look at the basic properties of the stones themselves for a huge clue on frequencies and what they're doing with perhaps sound. The other thing is you can strike a bluestone. Apparently, I have not done it myself, but if you go to Preseli Hills or the Preseli Mountains in Wales, where these stones come from, supposedly you can strike it with a little mallet and it rings out in a certain tone. So another big clue of what the actual Stonehenge might have been used for. And it's not just A or B. Again, it would have many different uses. So anyway, we've got this figure who's made this pilgrimage. And another little note on that is some of these sacred sites, they have been severely altered. I have seen photos, I've seen some documentation, and then I just felt it when I went there. It's kind of dead. The stones were unseated and seated, and things were concreted under them, so they don't have the connection to the ground anymore. There's an excuse of building a tunnel under it, really under a guise to be able to totally take the stones. I think the stones have been completely removed, to be honest, and some imposters have been placed there. In the example of Stonehenge, because when I've been there, there's it's dead in there. I've even walked amongst the stones. At work, made sure I got a part of a special tour to be able to walk in and amongst them, and there's just no energy there. I did feel the energy. This is reminding me of the forest to remember to look beyond, and then circling it. I did feel a lot of energy coming off of the land and sacred sites around, like burial sites and things, but nothing from the inner sanctum of this. The inner circle here, which tells me something absolutely was altered there. So that's a whole nother thing if you want to take a look into what might have happened in the history of these of this circle. But absolutely, it was altered and tampered with so that it's power on that site was disturbed. Now we get into the idea of grid work, energy lines, dragon energy. It is said, at least I've researched it and looked into it, that there are certain types of dragons that, spirit dragons, that actually deal with maintaining the grid lines of the earth and deal with the earth energies. It's very interesting. You might want to look into that. This is this is actually a piece of bluestone. Preseli, from the Preseli Hills, and actually it looks a little more greenish, and those little white bits are the feldspar in there. And some say, oh, that's kind of like the stars in the heavens, in this rock. But anyway, this is a palm stone. If it were a rough piece, it would look much different. Obviously, that's polished. Okay, I think that's all I want to say for now. But again, the idea of that they call them standing stones are almost like figures, in this depiction of it. And again, what are they doing, and what is the connection not only to the ground but to the skies above? And the shape has very much everything to do with it. And it's very interesting that this woman coming in her cloak, like her cape, she's also forming, like if you put your hands together in the prayer form, she's forming that, bringing your fingertips to a point to bring in the energies, right? And then spread them down and anchor them into the earth. So when we do that and put our hands in that formation, we are reaching up and bringing in those cosmic, those heavenly realm type energies, bringing them through us and putting back down into the earth. And then the earth gives it back up through our feet and, shoots it outward into the heavens. Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to say for right now on group 1, except I am going to read an excerpt from this card, which comes from the Rumi deck, just because I'm not familiar with, some of the references that they make in that deck. So this is 26 or number 8. Just to recap, you've got also number 5 over here with offer up gratitude, and then down here detachment is number 14 or number 5. I'm not really going to talk about detachment right now. That might be a little message in there for you, but nothing's hitting, like ringing any bells on that for me to talk about. So let's go ahead and look at what number, what did I say, 26, the meaning of this is. If you just give me a moment, I'm going to read this off camera because I've tried this before. I'll show you a couple of cards while I'm looking here. I've done it before in the past, and then my camera zooms in and out of focus, and it's quite annoying. So here we go. Okay, I got it. I'm only going to read you a tiny excerpt from the companion book, just the one that made the most sense to me to talk about this card, Alusa, the Star of Venus. So this one, give me a moment. Sorry for wandering all over the place. Let's see. Okay. Bear with me here. There was a part that I wanted to read. Hang on. Give me 1 second. All right, I'll just read this because I'm not familiar with the Alus, the Star of Venus. So according to this book anyway, and do your own research too and see what it means to you, it just talks about Alusa, the ancient shining one, also known as the Star of Venus, holds much power and strength. Even a small blessing of her light is more powerful than the fear of thousands, if not millions of people. She is known as a worthy ally in a battle of any kind, even spiritual battle. You must, however, stay aligned with her way, which is not to fight fear with fear, hate with hate, or anger with anger. Does this mean that you should not feel fear, hate, or anger? Of course not. Venus denies no experience, so let yourself feel whatever you feel. The guidance is not to stop being human. Take the next step into the divine human, into allowing the star blessing to nestle in your heart so you can shift as you feel the feelings, holding them with compassion, then choosing your own truths and that resonate at a far more refined vibration. So actually, I don't think that's what I really wanted to read, which is strange because usually I know exactly where to go in the book. But, maybe that did have some kind of meaning in there for you. Let's see. Okay, no, I think that's it. So sorry about the little lag time on this. Anyway, you also have a bonus card in there. Let me put this back. put the book back. Yeah, I have a bonus code in there because I had it as a placeholder. And you got divine discontent, which is interesting. And to me, this card, just looking at it fresh with you, talks about maybe that, here, let me put this down. Talks about that maybe you know that the goal or the eye on the prize, so to speak, is to be in harmony with that inner light, which again kind of is pointed, pointed like we're just talking about, the pointed form. That you know that's the goal, to have the harmony in your life, and maybe you're feeling out of step or out of sync with it. These look like, actually, again, like the standing stones. I'm going to pull this down. These do relate. It kind of looks like, I know everyone talks about shadow work and whatnot, but I just want to say that there's, two sides to every coin. There's the, the beauty and the gifts, and then there's kind of the turmoil. And sometimes we'll have like a euphoric moment of peace, and I feel great and harmonious, and then like something will happen to totally wreck that vibe, and you're like, what the heck, man? What the hell? I was having a nice vibe. Why is now this kind of adverse thing popping up in my life? And it's because we have this constant oscillation between the balance, the harmony, and being thrown off balance and back and forth. And so we were still going to stand steadfast through it. But even here, there's a light side to that stone and a darker side. So we're going to have, where we've got the light side and we have the darker side. And the light doesn't care. The light can look at the darkness. It has nothing to fear. The dark kind of fears the light. And it's this interplay that we apparently need in our lives to keep moving along and keep learning things, and not even so much learning things, re-experience things, to remember, oh yeah, that's what it feels like to be at the opposite. I don't like the way that feels. I want to be more toward this. I want to be here and bathing in the sunlight and the harmony, so to speak. So anyway, I just think this card is coming up not to, be anything like danger or make us feel bad. Actually, it's number 12, which is a 3, which is a divine holy number, so to speak, perfection, but number of perfection. However, divine discontent. It's not just discontent, it's divine discontent. And it's recognizing the difference of, okay, if I'm feeling discontented, it's just a temporary state of being. And I can be this, and I can feel it, and remember and learn things from it and grow. But okay, when I'm done with that, I'm heading back over here because I want the balance and the harmony and the light. All right. Well, that's it for group 1. And now we're going to move on to group 2. Group 2, you selected good fortune. This is just a reminder that here they're representing good fortune on this incense box with money. But that's just a thing. That's not necessarily the fortune in itself, because we've got you in fortune, okay? The good fortune is you. You are the fortunate. You have everything within you. This is just outer stuff. You are all the fortune you need. That's just the first message. Just like this, your key message here is number 3, embrace your magnificence. You already have it all. You got it all going on, and you're the center of it all, right? You're you got abundance up the wazoo. You don't need to look to the outside for any of that. You got it all within you. No problem. You're radiant, magnificent. Own it, be it, stand there. And just remember that. Just bathe in your own glory, okay? Because you are divine and you have it all, okay? So even if you don't feel like it, remember all of your gifts, all of them that you inherently have the day you were born, okay? Now we have, hang on with me, Obsidian and Hellebore, Shadow Mirror, Deep Healing, Understanding, quote-unquote, Seer. Okay, and here's a piece of, I hope this is Obsidian. I'm pretty sure it is. So right away with this too, I just want to say that in order to really see and be a seer, we need to look to the light. And relatively speaking, look at this card. We have a golden flower, but we also have a darker flower, kind of like the yin and yang principle, right? And again, it's counterbalance. It's, we're going to have moments of light, but we are going to have moments of relative darkness to balance things out. And as I was just saying in group 1, you might want to look there. I've had it where I've had like euphoric moments of, oh my gosh, I feel great. I feel so peaceful. I love this world. I love all of life. I love human beings. And isn't it wonderful how we can be here and help each other? And I'm in this total blissful state. And then bam, I got in a car accident right after, for example, somebody sideswiped me who was on drugs. So I'm like, what the hell, man? I was just enjoying this beautiful euphoric vibe and really knowing what it likes to, feels like to feel good and be here on this planet. And then bam, it like knocks me out of that peaceful bliss. So I'm like, what the hell, man? Well, it is just how it is here sometimes. We need the balance, and we're going to have a beautiful moment, and then bam, the opposite wrecks it. Or we're going to be in the pit and in a sad state, but then some miraculous miracle happens and shines in our light and pulls us out of it. So it really does seem to be on this planet for right now, the 3D world, we're going to have this yin and yang experience. And sometimes it happens instantaneously, where you're your highest high and then bam, you get knocked down. Or vice versa. You're on the floor crying and you have a breakthrough moment, and then bam, eureka, you get a golden moment that pulls you out of it, pulls you back into the divine, and reminds you of all the glory that you are. Okay? So we got to have both. Look, even amongst all this golden field of activity, we've got a darker, blue figure, which is kind of ironic because usually they show the plumage is all purple too. So this is making the distinction that there are so many facets to us, but excuse me, once again, we are all of it, right? And all of it is within us. So anyway, I'm going to keep moving along. I do invite you to look at the properties of obsidian. Hang on here, obsidian. I did not look up hellebore. I'm not really sure about those properties, so you might want to look into that too. And one other note, the shadow in the mirror, the shadow mirror. Okay, even this piece of obsidian, we have shadow and we have brighter points in the reflections, right? Illuminating it. So that's still that yin and yang principle. We got one, the light within the darkness, and we've got darkness within the light, and it keeps going in exponentially. And that's how growth happens, right? They say no pain, no gain. Sometimes we don't get it. We don't get like the light bulb turn on until we've gone through some of the darkness. Also reminds me, I've mentioned it in other shows probably, the book from the 1920s, The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. She's a metaphysician back then, and apparently one of her students, she writes in the book, said, well, what do I do if I'm always in this darkness? I can't seem to get out. And, walking through it, the hell of life, so to speak, in those moments. And she said, well, what do you do? Well, you get real good at seeing in the dark. And that goes back to our seer part of this. And how can you really be a seer into things and look deeply into things if you don't know all facets of it? If you don't know the everything and the void, or the no thing. And that no thing, remember, is the 0 point of creation, where all possibilities are there waiting and possible to be created. All right. So the darkness or the void is not a bad thing. It's just another thing that is a part of everything. Okay. Now we'll look at the orchid here. Beautiful card. 18, or number 9, fertility. And the orchid, I just want to say there are many types. There's ground-based ones. There are ones that grow really well in the air or in trees. And this overall card, obviously we see like the heart-shaped rocks and things with the soil. It's just right away comes to mind for me is the darkness or the blackness and the richness of the soil. And for whatever reason, this is probably a message for somebody very specific. You might want to go watch the movie Rogue One, one of the Star Wars stories, because one of the opening scenes, I don't want to spoil it too much, but they open up with some black beach, like really richest kind of black soil I've seen. Really beautiful opening scene, reminds me of this landscape beyond. Now, it also reminds me that there's also orchids. I don't know if you knew this. I don't know why, but I didn't really think about it or learn about it till recently. But vanilla, the flavoring of vanilla, comes from the seed pod of a specific type of orchid that grows on Madagascar, and I don't know where else it might grow. Anyway, that might be something for you to look into as well. And also healing properties of the orchid itself might be another message for you. Now, we're also going to look at another card here. Beautiful card. And it's called Blessing of Zahra, if I say that right. And it's number 39, which is, bear with me, it's a 12 or also a 3. So you've got, a 3 and 9, and at the very top, 9. And then you've got a 3 with the embrace your magnificence. So you got some very nice divine Holy Trinity type numbers going on in this overall deck. Now here the colors, are, bringing into mind this of the orchid, very beautiful. And look at even on her dress, it's like green and it feels very plant-like, very stem-like. So these two have a nice, strong relationship to each other, fertility and the blessing of Zara. So let me see what that blessing is. I'm going to go to the book on that because this comes from the Rumi deck, and I really am not familiar with some of these references. So I did, and bear with me, I'm going to be kind of moving around. I'm going to read this off camera because when I try to zoom in on the book, it like zooms out in and out of focus range. So I'm just going to read one little excerpt. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Let me find out where I kind of just highlighted a part of it. Hold on. Okay, I'll just read part of it, see if any of this clicks for you. All right, you are being given a blessing of Zara, of radiance, of brightness. This blessing has a purpose. It is to clear out that which would obstruct your full unfoldment, to support the divine jewel of your soul in shining. You are being given an opportunity supported by life, by the earth, by the grace of the divine beloved, to shed toxins from your being. These may be physical, and they may equally be of emotional, psychic, or psychological origin. They may come from this or another lifetime. You may understand consciously what is being released, or you may not. If you are sensitive, you may feel symptoms of detoxification at a physical level, even if what you are releasing is emotional or psychological in nature. You are encouraged to complete the sacred honoring rituals to stay adequately hydrated and to be moderate rather than excessive in your approach. Give your body and mind time to rest and replenish so that blessing can be fully received. Okay, so I think that's enough for now, but that's a beautiful reminder and very apropos here because we're talking about hydration and getting the proper hydration. And I just looked up the hydration of a tulip plant because that comes in the next deck, the next group, number 3. So you might want to look at the hydration of an orchid and what that means. I did not look that up, so that's on you. A little assignment if you want to accept it and choose it and look into that. Okay, I think that's all I have for group 2 for now. Yes, so I hope you enjoyed it, and now we're on to group 3. Oh, one more thing. I take that back. I did have one extra card as a placeholder to read that excerpt, so you do get one more little bonus card out of that same Rumi deck. And here it is. Let's see what it is together. I just pulled one randomly. So this is number 2, the all-encompassing hand. And that's some beautiful imagery. So once again, I would just say that if this is abstract, kind of form of a hand coming around a light source, and divine light source in the middle, that just reminds me of that, kind of disc, that golden light there at the center of this peacock here. And the peacock also as a spirit animal symbolizes the divine and divine insights and a divine connection because it stands rooted in the ground, but its plumage at the top are like little antennas that connect to the cosmos and bring it down into the crown chakra and the third eye. Okay, so there we are. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Now we're on to group 3. Group 3, you have selected gold, silver. Okay, your first message is coming here with this beautiful card, with this elephant stepping into kind of the unknown, number 26 or number 8. Keep the faith. This elephant is just not even thinking twice, just stepping out into a great clearing or the great unknown. Now, it doesn't know if there's hunters or poachers sitting there, or even if they're tigers, although tigers apparently don't attack elephants that often, especially if they're in a group, in a herd. Obviously, they might strike out if there's a more vulnerable one, a sickly one, or a juvenile. But for the most part, this elephant can be happy-go-lucky, fearing nothing. Got the butterfly leading its way, lightness and airiness. It's when you look at the elephant itself, it's interesting. It's like such a holy animal if you think about it. It's, as we all are, actually all divine creations. But it's interesting because we've got this solid connection to the earth, with the weight, the mass, the strength, and the power, and also the shape of the foot. you know, how it just like stamps into the ground, very solid connection with the earth. Also, it does kind of look like it's hewn out of the earth, out of mud, like a sculpture. But at the same time, it's got this magnificent power to take this trunk and raise it up into the heavens and, you know, make that connection between the sky and the earth. Just exquisite. All right, we're going to keep moving along, and we might jump back and come back to this card as well. I do want to bring your attention to, we've got this leaf in the shape of a heart, and now we have these heart-shaped plants with the bleeding heart vine. So this card's interesting. It's like a hand faced, you know, palm up, holding up this crystal point. And the card itself is Candle, Quartz, and Bleeding Heart. Show yourself. Vulnerability, self-worth, feminine, healing. So we've got some very soft, almost like rose quartz colors. I put actual quartz pieces alongside it just to accompany this card. And what's interesting is, I don't know if you've seen a bleeding heart vine. I have actually planted one. The one that I had was more purplish in color. And I never liked the word bleeding anything. You know, I don't know. I don't like it. Because to me, and of course it's the expression, if you have a bleeding heart, right, you're like showing your emotions, you're wearing them on your sleeve. It's almost like a negative thing. People use it and toss it around in the Western culture. They say, oh, well, you have a bleeding heart, meaning you're too vulnerable, too giving, almost implying that you're too sappy, pun intended, and, you know, that it's a negative thing, but it isn't. It's showing that you are and not bleeding yourself dry, which would be harming the soul, but you have such an outpouring that it just has nowhere to go and can't be contained, that it has to kind of bleed out a bit and actually be shared. That also gets into, for me, this is bringing up the connotation of blood donations. So way back when, I was told, do not donate blood. There are many reasons for this, and depends on how you want to look at it and what rabbit holes you want to go down or not. Keep in mind, rabbit holes don't mean anything. It doesn't have substance. It just means it's something that goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But in this case, I asked, well, why not? And one explanation was, well, if you're feminine, you give blood every month, so to speak, which is true, and it's a depletion of your system. However, there's also other reasons going on. I don't want to get into the more nefarious aspects. And of course, there are cases where donating it it's fine, as long as you're in a safe environment and you know that the people collecting it are of in good intention and are going to use the blood in the proper way. But the other thing too is we have obviously all different blood types, and type O universal, O negative, is a rare blood type, very rare, and that blood type can be donated to anybody apparently on the planet. Now, that person with the O negative universal can only receive O negative universal. So everyone else is getting the benefit of this quote unquote bleeding heart if you have O negative. But that O negative cannot receive the blood from anybody else but an O negative, which is pretty rare. Why am I bringing that up? I don't know. It's just where this is taking me. So if you're not of O negative, it doesn't matter either. It's just saying, though, that we are each constructed very differently, with different physical characteristics. However, our luminescence, our light, you know, which can be represented by this quartz, is universal. Okay, we are the God spark, that, you know, that brilliant light. It's mentioned in another group. What is the image of God? Well, it's neither male nor female because it's light. You know, certain cultures have characteristics of how they define light. So if you look in more like Spanish, it's la luz. They're saying it's a feminine with the la in the front, the article. But like in German, it's das Licht. It's just kind of it's light, right? And in English, the light. Well, the isn't masculine nor feminine. Does it matter that people are characterizing it as a male or female? No, but it just depends on what your understanding is of that light, that God spark, that divine light, and what it means to you. All right, I know this is kind of going all over the place, but that's just how it is in my reading sometimes. So here it goes. Show yourself, regardless whether you're feeling vulnerable or whether you have high self-worth or low self-worth. Show up as you are, unabashedly, non-apologetic. Show up, be there. We are here. right now at a very special time on Earth. A lot of people are getting activated by the moment. It's called the Great Awakening. It is to dispel or completely unseat and dislodge the great deception that has been running free reign over this planet. I could say, yes, it's a judgment far too long. It's just their time is up. It is what it is. And so now this great light is starting to rise up. So don't let anyone label you as vulnerable. I'm not telling you what to do, but feel not labeled as a vulnerable or like a bleeding heart. No, you're just a loving, compassionate being. No negative connotations on that. You need to show up. Not need to. I take that back. We are just showing up. You can't not but just show up. If you wake up and you breathe, you're showing up. And sometimes we will be used as conductors. See this point? To bring in the divine energies and to radiate them out into the world. And just like these little things, we are the light in the darkness, right? And even if there's no darkness, we are just light. We are what we are. And even if you're not feeling like it, if you're feeling vulnerable, if you're having low self-worth, that's just a temporary state of being, because that's not the truth. So once you get over that and feel those emotions, recognize that they no longer serve you and wave them goodbye or kiss them goodbye and let them go, then you will continue to stand in that light and probably feel much better. So remember that you can't not but be that light, that God spark. We just forget sometimes and think we are the darkness or think we can never get out of there. But all we need to do is recognize no longer serves us, let it go, wave it goodbye, kiss it goodbye, and come back in and stand in our full power. That's it. All right, talking about standing in full power, we've got this beautiful red tulip. It's called Desire on this card, number 13 or number 4. We've got a temple he's standing behind as well. Kind of reminds me of like a Parthenon type thing, you know, with a frieze up at the top. And we have some columns maybe. In this case, I guess, you know, we could look at what kind of columns they are. There's apparently 3 classifications of the antiquities. We've got Doric, which is very plain, which is the column with like no ornamentation. Then we have Ionic, which has the scrolls at either side at the top. And then we have Corinthian, which has like the acanthus leaves on the top. So one little note or message of this card could be, what column would you be if you were one of those 3? Or can you think of another one and design your own column of what you would be if you had to translate it into an architectural antiquity? Just for fun, that's a little challenge if you want it. Getting back to the red tulip, of course, there's a lot of different meanings with the color red. I'm not going to get into those. You could equate it to the chakras and know that that's more of the base or the sacral chakra. What I want to get into instead, and it's not even the desire aspect, but looking at the etymology of the word tulip, of the flower. Supposedly, it's not from Holland. It is supposedly originated in Turkey or Persian roots to it. And actually, the name tulip itself, the etymology, if you look it up, is from Persian, and it is turban. So, you know, that it was evoking, you know, the look of a turban, supposedly, is how it was named. Anyway, that has a whole other, you know, side of it. You might want to look at healing properties and what healing properties tulips can offer with plant medicine. Also, it's the notion of standing upright in your full power and letting it shine. Like this goes very much hand in hand or pedal and pedal with show yourself, you know. Show yourself. You're going to show up vulnerable as a bleeding heart, so to speak, in a positive aspect of that sense and not the negative connotation so often attributed to that, you know, phrase, which is wrongly so in my opinion. Show yourself, show up vulnerable, show up strong, show up fearless, show up afraid, show up however you are, just show up. In so doing, you are shining out your full glory. In so doing, you are either, if you're vulnerable, you're coming out there with a message for others to rise up and be more compassionate and shine their light. If you are already strong, you are showing up and you are that strength and that lighthouse for others to come find you when they're in darkness. So the answer is just show up. Unafraid, unabashedly, show up, come as you are. Okay? And do not be afraid, stand strong. Also hydrate, it's another message, because, you know, tulips, they show up, they come as they are. They're vulnerable, they'll be drooping. And you'll see right away, oh my gosh, that tulip needs nourishment. Let me go help it. Let me go give it some water, right? That's the message. All right, now we have also number 15 or number 6. Divine Mother manifests. Now, I did look ahead at the book, and I did not really, none of those meanings in there kind of jived with me, so to speak. Here, I'm going to move this card over here for a minute. None of them kind of really did anything for me, so to speak. So I'm just going to go and give my interpretation here. So here we go. Number 6, okay, Divine Mother manifests. Well, in this case, I'm not really looking at manifestation other than the sense that here she is, as we talked before, maybe in another pile. What is light? It's neither he nor she. It's the light. It shines. It is what it is. Now we've got the greens, with this, which is heart chakras. Yellows is more solar plexus. We've got indigos and the crown chakras happening up here. So to me, it's kind of like, well, light is what it is, but out of that can take any form. Any form can be made out of this center of creation and the feminine aspect of being the creative force, right? So all I want to say here is this to me reminds me of that glowing ember, that feeling of pure love, for maybe a child or animals or each other, a love for a passion, something that you're doing, something that you're nurturing, like that's your baby. It's not a physical baby, but this is that feeling inside that gives birth to, maybe we'll come back here to your desire, your passions, the red passion, right? Passionate. This gives birth to whatever you desire. It can take any form. And that form can also morph and change. So say you've grown up all your life and you just love to paint. That's all you want to do. You think you want to be an artist. That's all you want to do. And you do. You create infinite things. You create whatever comes to mind, whatever divinely comes, channels through you. But then all of a sudden you decide, I don't want to paint anymore. Well, that's fine. You give birth to yet now another creation. Say now your passion is studying crickets or grasshoppers. Then that becomes your new passion, right? So the point is that this is, even though it feels like it's encompassing and like cherishing a special moment or golden moment in time, behind here we see there are infinite moments, infinite possibilities, and they will come in and step into this desire point or creation point at different times along our lives. It's an ongoing process, of ongoing expanding process. This feels kind of contained and sheltered, but we also know that light can beam out, outside of anybody's control or hold on it. All right, I think that's all I want to say for now. I hope I covered everything, and I think so. So for right now too, we're gonna have a couple of bonus cards, as I like to do. So I'm just going to take 2 different decks this time. One that I find very interesting. I'm going to put the cards down here for a second. I'm going to read the back of this box because I wasn't sure if I wanted to get these cards, but the more I read it, I'm like, oh, heck yes, we'll do it. The only reason why I hesitated is because it's called the Wild Kuan Yin Oracle. And I've never have quite a connection just because I never understand or have really looked into Kuan Yin. But here we go. I'm just going to read the back of the box, excerpt from it, and then I'll get into picking a card out of there. So it says, within you beats a wild and compassionate heart, alive and fierce optimism. You have the courage to walk a path of transformation. You will not be tamed by convention. You are not afraid to be different, to take risks for what you love, and most of all, to keep hope in your heart. You are one of the wild ones. This deck is for you. So let's do it. Let's see what we've got here. I'm going to move these so I don't hurt myself. I'm going to spread these cards across or hurt the cards. So here we go. I'm just going to put this here and just kind of spread it haphazardly with fun. Who cares? I'm spreading them all around. And now I'll just pan around, see what card you would have picked. I think I want to go for this one. Okay. Let's see what we got. This is, bear with me. Okay, this is number, oh my gosh, forgive my eyes are going out of focus today. 26 or number 8, she rides with wild spirit unbroken. All right, and now the figures in the background actually remind me, if you know the animated series, animated series Avatar, like from the movie Avatar, The Last Airbender, that type of thing. This figure behind reminds me of Appa. So you might want to look into that or watch that animated series. It's actually really nicely done, I think. Avatar. Anyway, she rides with wild spirit unbroken. And look at the lightness she has. Doesn't that just feel great? Like she's a kite. And you can like, I think, well, imagine what that would feel like just to float in the air like that and feel protected and not alone with a little friend there. And so she's just kind of looking out and, you know, is embodying lightness. So maybe this is an invitation to either literally go kite surfing or do parasailing or go fly a kite, or just remember lightness today and playfulness and no worries, like the feeling of floating and not being attached to any cares in this world right now. Okay? It's just very peaceful too, I think. So do something that is peaceful. And actually, when I look down, I just happened to see from the bonus card too, from group 2, this kind of also just captures this feeling of lightness, of floating, you know, of feeling also safe and comfortable and at pure peace. It's at least it's like an abstraction of the thing that I said looks like Appa is down here. You know, that reminds me of those golden waves. Okay. All right, so we're also going to do one more like that, and this is going to come from the Sufi Wisdom Oracle, and I'm going to just put these down now and just kind of haphazardly, because it's kind of weird to look through the viewfinder and spread these. I probably shouldn't do that, but oh well. Okay, so now we'll look at this, and what's calling my attention is this one over here. So let's see what we have. Little bonus card here for everyone is willpower. Improve your willpower to reduce your stress level. Okay, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because that's kind of like the counterbalance to what we were just talking about, which is being completely free in the wind. And this now is saying to improve your willpower to reduce your stress level. Well, I don't know what I think about that. What do you think about that? I don't think there is such a thing as improving willpower. I know that's often used in the context in the Western world of, oh, you should diet if you want to, you know, lose weight, then exercise willpower, put that donut down. But you know what? I don't agree with that. I agree with free will, and the power is in the free will. I agree with listen to your body. If your body wants a donut, you have it. It makes you happy. You burn the calories up. If you're feeling guilty about that donut, it's going to do the opposite. So I don't think it's necessarily a function of improving or changing willpower. So this is interesting. It's kind of the first time I don't quite agree with that. Now, of course, we get the overall basic meaning, you know, if you don't want to repeat a certain pattern that's not desirable, well, then okay, use your power in a focused way to stop doing that. That I can get on board with. So I think today it's interesting. It's not so much of me saying anything about this or giving you my feelings or impressions or interpretations or opinions. I think this card is specifically for you, and see what this means to you and contemplate the idea of willpower. Now, this just came up with a conversation I had with somebody, a great spiritual conversation yesterday. Willpower. We talk about free will. This is just reminding me now of free will. So free will. It's interesting because, well, whose free will are we talking about? Are we talking about your free will of you embodied incarnate in a 3D human body? Or are we talking about the free will that you exercise to volunteer to come to this planet? If you volunteered and said, hey, yeah, I'll sign up, I'll come here and I'll represent light in this world which needs it right now, especially now in this stage of the spiritual battle that we're in. Darkness needs light shined on it to bring the balance or the counterpoint. And a lot of us said, okay, let me go down there. I'll be the light. Let me hold the light because, boy, that planet, that earth realm sure does need it. So when we come down here and we choose, I do believe we choose our parents. That's our free will to do that and to make that choice. So when we talk about willpower, are we talking about just the 3D willpower and the 3D incarnate, you know, they call it a meat suit. I don't like that, or space suit, just like 3D suit, material suit. Or are we talking about the willpower of the eternal soul that is us that made the decision to come here? So that's just something to contemplate. That's all. All right. That's it for now. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're having a beautiful right now. And as always, I send you and extend tremendous peace and love to you. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.